Roger Federer is known as the gentleman of tennis. But here's what most people don't realize. While others were chasing trophies, Federer was quietly building a billion-dollar fortune. The shocking part? Less than 15% of his wealth came from tennis itself. The rest came from brilliant moves that turned him into one of the richest athletes of all time. What were those moves? Stay with me because the real story of Federer's empire will completely change how you think about success. When you think of Federer, you think of elegance, 20 Grand Slam titles, and that perfect one-handed backhand. But while the world was celebrating his victories, Federer was planning something much bigger. He wasn't just winning matches, he was laying the foundation of a global empire. Prize money? Around $130 million? Sounds massive, but it's a small piece of his fortune. His true wealth came from endorsements, deals, and investments that brought in over $1 billion. What's fascinating is that Federer figured this out early. Unlike many athletes who peak and fade, Federer built a career of remarkable longevity, staying at the top of tennis for nearly 2 decades. That consistency didn't just make him a sports legend, it made him a marketer's dream. Global recognition, a spotless reputation, and a career that brands could trust would endure. And here's the crucial point. Federer knew that the trophies were temporary, but the image he created could last forever. While other athletes were chasing short-term sponsorships, Federer was carefully curating long-term partnerships that would define his fortune. This is where the story shifts, because his true genius wasn't just in hitting winners on court, but in becoming the ultimate endorsement king. So how does an athlete go from prize money to billionaire status? The secret lies in understanding that Federer wasn't just an athlete, he was a brand. Federer understood something few athletes ever do. Companies don't just want winners, they want icons. And Federer was the perfect fit. Rolex, Mercedes-Benz, Credit Suisse, Wilson, Moet, and Chandon all saw in him not just a champion, but a safe bet for decades. By 2020, Federer was earning over $90 million a year from endorsements alone. Rolex paid him millions annually. Wilson stuck with him for over 20 years. And Nike built an entire line around him, until Federer shocked the world by walking away. What set Federer apart was his ability to maintain an image of absolute consistency. Think about it. No scandals, no controversies, no reckless behavior. In a world where athletes often lose millions because of damaged reputations, Federer became the definition of reliability. For luxury brands that value stability as much as prestige, Federer was the ultimate ambassador. But even more impressive is how Federer treated endorsements not as temporary paychecks, but as partnerships. He didn't just lend his face to products, he aligned himself with companies that matched his personal brand of timeless elegance. That's why many of his deals lasted for decades. Yet the biggest surprise came when he made a move no one expected, leaving Nike, the sportswear giant that had built his image for over 20 years. And this decision would change everything. Walking away from Nike looked like financial suicide, but in reality, it was the smartest money move of his life. In 2018, Federer stunned the sports world. After more than 2 decades with Nike, he signed a 10-year, $300 million deal with Uniqlo. The shock wasn't just the money, it was the strategy. Federer was 36, an age when most players are retiring. Nike saw his career winding down. Uniqlo saw something else. Federer as a global icon, bigger than the game itself. Uniqlo didn't care if Federer kept winning, they wanted his image. $30 million per year, guaranteed, whether he was injured, retired, or even completely off the court. It wasn't a sponsorship, it was a declaration. Federer had transcended tennis. To understand how bold this was, imagine walking away from the very company that had built your global identity. Nike wasn't just Federer's sponsor, it was part of his story, from his first slam victories to his rise as the face of modern tennis. Cutting ties with Nike was like breaking up with a lifelong partner, but Federer was willing to risk it all for a bigger, long-term play. And here's the genius. While Nike tied its contracts to performance, Uniqlo tied theirs to legacy. They weren't paying Federer for forehands and backhands. They were paying for the timeless aura he represented. That's why the deal guaranteed income even if Federer never lifted a racket again. It was the moment Federer stopped being just an athlete and fully became a billionaire brand. But this was only one piece of the puzzle, because Federer didn't stop at endorsements. He stepped into the world's most exclusive club, equity ownership. Federer knew endorsements wouldn't last forever, so he turned endorsement cash into ownership. One of his smartest moves? Investing in the sneaker startup On Running. Federer didn't just promote their shoes, he bought a stake. When On went public in 2021, its valuation hit over $10 billion, and Federer's personal shares surged in value, instantly adding tens of millions to his net worth. Federer became not just a promoter, but a shareholder. He also co-founded the Laver Cup, now one of tennis's most prestigious events. Federer wasn't chasing paychecks anymore, he was building institutions. This was Federer's transformation from employee to owner. For years, brands paid him to wear their logos. But with On running, the equation flipped. Now he owned part of the logo. Analysts estimate his stake to be around 3%. That might sound small, but when the company's value shot past $10 billion, Federer's investment multiplied into a fortune worth well over $300 million. Unlike prize money or sponsorships, equity doesn't disappear when the matches end. It compounds, it scales, it creates generational wealth. And the brilliance didn't stop there. With the Laver Cup, Federer wasn't just creating another tournament. He was creating an institution. Think of it like the Ryder Cup of tennis. Europe versus the world, a format no one else had. By putting his name behind it, Federer ensured the event would outlive his career, generating prestige, influence, and revenue for decades to come. This wasn't the move of an athlete, it was the move of a visionary entrepreneur. But Federer's fortune isn't just about business moves. There's also something deeply personal, the way he chose to live, spend, and give back. Roger Federer may be worth over $1 billion, but unlike many athletes who burn through fortunes, his lifestyle is defined by balance. Yes, he owns luxury homes in Dubai, the Swiss Alps, and Lake Zurich. Yes, he travels by private jet and collects high-end watches. But here's the twist. Federer's spending isn't reckless indulgence, it's strategic storytelling. Take his watch collection. Federer isn't just a fan of Rolex, he's been the face of the brand for years. Every time he lifts a trophy, the watch on his wrist becomes part of history. That's not just fashion, it's free global advertising, turning personal taste into brand synergy worth millions. Even his residences play a role. A home in Switzerland reinforces his image of elegance and heritage, while Dubai signals global reach and tax-savvy planning. Yet what's most fascinating is what Federer doesn't do. He's not buying super yachts or throwing nine-figure parties. Instead, he channels wealth into family, legacy, and philanthropy. His Roger Federer Foundation has invested over $50 million into education projects in Africa and Switzerland. By combining luxury with purpose, Federer avoids the tragic downfall of athletes who lose it all. He's not just protecting his fortune, he's protecting his story. But here's the question, what does it all mean? Beyond the headlines, the trophies, and the money, what can we learn from Federer's billion-dollar journey? Federer's story isn't just about winning 20 Grand Slam titles. It's about rewriting what an athlete can be. He transformed from a kid with a racket to a global icon, from a competitor to a brand builder, from a player to a billionaire entrepreneur. That arc, from the court to the boardroom, is the real victory. Unlike many athletes, Federer understood that his time in the spotlight was limited. He planned ahead, making his wealth work beyond the game. His investments, his foundation, his partnerships, all are built to last longer than his forehand ever could. This is why even in retirement, his influence continues to grow. He may not be lifting trophies anymore, but he's still lifting standards. And perhaps that's Federer's greatest legacy. He didn't let the game define him. He defined himself beyond the game. To fans, he remains a symbol of grace. To brands, he's the gold standard of trust. To entrepreneurs, he's living proof that vision matters more than circumstances. Federer's billion-dollar empire isn't just about money. It's about what money represents: discipline, patience, and the courage to think long-term. And as you reflect on Federer's journey, ask yourself, what's your next move? Because if Federer teaches us anything, it's this: success isn't about how you start, it's about how you finish. Roger Federer's journey proves that greatness doesn't end when the game is over. His billion-dollar empire is not just the story of an athlete, it's the story of reinvention, vision, and purpose. From trophies to boardrooms, from endorsements to investments, Federer reminds us that true champions don't just play for today, they build for tomorrow. And here's the truth, you don't need to be Federer to learn from his playbook. Whether it's mastering discipline, making smart financial choices, or redefining what success means to you, his path is a reminder that the biggest victories happen off the court. If you take anything from Federer's journey, let it be this: build a life where your legacy outlives your career. If you found Federer's story inspiring, don't stop here. This channel is filled with powerful stories of wealth, strategy, and reinvention from the world's most extraordinary people. Hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and keep watching, because the next story might just change the way you see your own future.